Good morning, Lagos. Thank you very much for staying tuned here on Smooth 98.1. Hope your Monday is going well so far. I'm Ayo Mairo Ese,
And I'm Valentine Ohu. Good morning.
and it's time for Freshly Pressed 981. Joining us for the conversation this morning, we have Ugo Dre. Good morning, Ugo.
Hey, morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Ugo is at Ugo Dre on Twitter. And we have Wade. Wade, good morning.
Good morning, Aya. Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Lagos.
Wade is at Rink Nigeria. Wade was with us on Wednesday last week when we talked about power. If you'd like to catch the recap of that conversation during Lagos Talk Special, you can go onto our YouTube channel to watch. It was really insightful. Now, let's see how we can get involved today.
WhatsApp is our messaging platform. So WhatsApp number is 0809-444-0981. We're streaming live on YouTube. Just subscribe to the channel and type Smooth981 FM Lagos. On Twitter, use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981.
Okay, all right, let's go to our first story. Ugo, let me start with you. $9.6 billion judgment. Our best option is to negotiate with P&ID. Okay, Wade, I'll come to you. So we have a report here, not very long, but from the Punch newspaper. The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami SAN, yesterday gave an insight into why the federal government at a point decided to negotiate with P&ID Limited, despite being aware that the contract was fraudulent. Can you please take us through this story?
This is a step in the right direction. We've all been talking about this over the last 1 month. Why we felt it was important for the government to first sit down and look at these things with PIP and ID. It could have been done earlier when we went through arbitration and the amount was just 860 million. But I guess the federal government were trying to get their acts together. I think they finally done that and they're going to sit down with P&ID. However, at the end of the day, I think they should ensure that they investigate and question all those who were party to it.
Yes.
And if anyone is found culpable, they should actually bring them to trial. And let's see how it goes. But at least now we're sitting down. We're sure nobody is going to unilaterally seize any of our assets anywhere until that discussion has been had. We'll get a result as we go on. I hope.
All right. So no more burying our heads in the sand and saying, wishing or willing it to go away. The problem, the fine or the...
Well, the problem would never have gone away. What they should have done is first sit down with P&ID, which I think should have been done a long time ago. And then secondly, while you're doing all your investigations in-house,
Yes.
you continue to talk to them and start getting all the necessary people who need to be questioned to sit down and tell you the details of the story. I don't think this transaction was right, personally.
He's annoying, actually.
I don't think the transaction was right. I just think it was an agreement on paper for, let me not say a few people, for some people to
RNG.
Yes.
That's all I would say.
If we're saying it's an RNG issue, and then here they mention the PDP, that the government of the PDP did not appeal. So again, of course, the APC is throwing it back to the previous
They shouldn't even
administration.
politicize this thing because these guys are the same and they cross carpet everywhere depending on where they are anytime during the year. So what is clear and what is really annoying here is, look, you've got judgment against Nigeria, in favor of a company that, practically has no operations, right? And then a company that actually did not render any service. Okay, so you're getting judgment because of a loss of revenue, like revenue that you would have earned. And we're on the hook, taxpayers are on the hook for this kind of money. So it's just, this is what you see. This is basically government ineptitude, right? People are for all rank and file. I mean, so it's actually very annoying. And I think there was one article I read about the weekend about former Supreme Court judge actually even rendering some kind of advisory to.
Yes, I saw that.
You read these things and you're like, what the hell is going on? Like, how do we hold people accountable?
All right, thank you very much. Big question there. It's a Monday morning, not yet time to spoil the mood, but how do we hold people accountable is really key. Now, Ugo, let me stay with you for the next story. Xenophobia. Evacuated Nigerians might be deterred from South Africa for 10 years. So Daily Times reports in detail what happened when the Nigerians were being repatriated or being evacuated from South Africa following the attacks. We know last week we spoke about the fact that almost as if the South African authorities put up a resistance or they were a bit offended by the evacuation, and now there's something that's happened and they say they might be barred. Please take us through the detail of the story.
So according to the story, you know, Nigerians wanted to leave. I think they had, they were at the airport very early in the morning to take off by 9 a.m. Eventually, they didn't leave till about 4 p.m. and that was because, according to the story, South African airport authorities held them back, and holding them back, the excuse was that look, there's biometric, whatever that you had to do, and you had to go through biometrics and blah blah blah. And of course, some officials were also very upset that it was kind of like a strong message to the country if for example, if you have a country evacuates people out of your own country, then it doesn't really send a good signal. It's kind of like a shame. So they didn't like that as well, and the way it happened. But the real gist here, Ayo, is that it's actually the biometrics thingy that they had Nigerians go through, and the idea basically is what they are saying is that biometric basically bans these Nigerians who left South Africa, through this earpiece evacuation, and probably going to ban them from, visiting South Africa for the next 10 years. So now you're like, why would anybody want to go back after all this attack? But I mean, think about it. If you had business, a thriving business there, and you see this as just one temporal issue that would, maybe resolve over time, you probably just want to leave because safety first, right? So you want to leave your family or evacuate your family out first. Right, and then wait and see how things pan out, and then you can go back to your source of livelihood. So, but with this biometric whatever, and then them not being able to, leave without fear of not being able to come back, then a lot of them just decided not to leave. Some actually just said, you know what, let me just
they
stay back.
returned. They didn't
they didn't bother, flying. So you find that those who are flying are probably those who, maybe their lives are serious danger or really nothing to lose, or don't have much investment in that country. So I mean, these are things that it's quite disturbing if this is true. That they have to go through this. I mean, South Africans of course will tell you that look, biometric is just one of those things that you have to do.
It's just due process.
When you're leaving, due process. But then and that they can go ahead and ban them for 10 years is a different issue. But I don't think it's something that you can resolve. I think at some point, when both governments sit down to negotiate these issues, a lot of these things will be taken off the table.
What if some of these people are actually South African citizens?
Who leaving South Africa to Nigeria?
It's not
I
possible
doubt it,
because they're doing their checks.
It's not impossible.
I don't know.
Yeah, because first and foremost, it's about safety.
I mean, some of them
But that's on the assumption that they're just jumping on the plane. They're not.
So
there are a lot of checks.
What they've mentioned also is that some of them, like Ugo has rightly said, that some of them will leave to hopefully come back once things have settled. And as for some people who had investments or even have family members there, they didn't board the flight anymore when they found out they were actually and there was a risk of them not being allowed to come back into the country, and that is worrying. I'm happy that you mentioned when we get to the negotiation table, we haven't really heard much as to what is being. Yes, we've seen, okay, should we sue? Should there be apologies? So and so. But we want a concrete statement and action from the government as to, how they're dealing on a diplomatic level now with South Africa, because this shouldn't be happening. We are the giants of Africa. We're supposed to be the giants of Africa.
Amount, music and some things, not economy.
From Joe sent a message on WhatsApp. He said the negligence of this government has led to this current judgment of P&ID. And had Buhari's government continued with the out-of-court negotiations gotten by Jonathan's government, Malami should be prosecuted too. Dr. I says, hello, so the incompetent officials who allowed it balloon from 850 million to 9 billion are left off. 4 years to get a government's response. Welcome to the change. Yinka said on the P&ID thing, my body is doing me somehow because it's like the whole thing was rigged to fail from the get-go. Why? Do you know what P&ID, or that P&ID is a type of drawing in process engineering? Google, if you research P&ID or P&ID, and you see the first set of answers you get is what All right, it's just going back and forth, the same thing,
Yeah.
process flow diagrams. Well, thank you very much for your messaging, Cap. Shegun says, each time I think of the South African issue, the more I get upset with the owners of the particular company that ran the company aground with the goodwill they enjoyed with Nigerians. At least they could have finished off multi-choice.
Yeah. So rivals. Right, okay. Let's go on to our next story. Nigeria's United Nations representative Muhammad-Bande takes charge as the United Nations General Assembly president tomorrow, Tuesday. Now, good news for a Monday morning. I know we already said don't let's spoil our morning this morning. Sometimes we hear the news and we're a bit depressed, but this is good news. So exactly 30 years after Nigeria produced the president of the United Nations General Assembly, the country's permanent representative to the UN, Professor Tijani Muhammad-Bande, will tomorrow assume office as the 74th president of UNGA. Can you please take us through this, Wadi?
Congratulations to Nigeria. This is good news to hear on a Monday morning, rather than the P&ID. But it's quite interesting, you know. We go to the UN as Nigerians, as representatives, and we excel.
Yeah.
But, you know, strangely enough, we don't see the same things coming up when you're in Nigeria. And it's you have the deputy UN Secretary General on SDGs is a Nigerian, and she's driving it all over the world with so much vigor, and we hear so much about how the sustainable development goals are now being adopted by private businesses and so on and so forth. So it's really interesting that we go outside, we excel. Some of the same people come back to Nigeria, and you know, they found one thing. It's congratulations to Nigeria.
But how do we benefit from this?
That's the next question I was going to ask. How does this improve our status? Because, you know, sometimes it's easy for us to celebrate some wins that are not really wins and make it headline and we say, oh, we're doing so, give ourselves a pat on the back. But what is the significance of him being president of UNGA? Of course, it's a great
there's some things that we listed out as some of the things that, you know, he could push, especially on the African agenda.
What are the things that he could push?
The 2030 agenda for sustainable development with particular focus on peace and security in Africa. What's it called? The bridging the gaps and promoting collective action to address international issues as it also relates to Africa or Nigeria, as the case may be. So he has his own favorable points, and it's also a good thing because he's sitting there as the head, and he would be able to liaise and focus on Nigeria and Africa as a whole. So,
but just very quickly, I know traditionally or historically, for those who have, for Nigerians who have been able to take on these positions, for instance, the Deputy UN Secretary General you've mentioned in charge of SDGs, have we seen the impact? Do they really, like you mentioned, okay, then be able to focus on Nigeria, Africa? When these people attain these heights, do they really focus on Nigeria? Do they really?
Well, sorry to butt in there.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, when they do these things or when they attain this height, like you put it, it's a global appointment, so it's not like, you know, they're there for Nigeria per se. I mean, you could look at former UN Secretary General late Kofi Annan, for example. I mean, they really give out Ghana per se, but in terms of that's one area where you look at it positively. I mean, Nigeria has gotten a lot of bashing recently, you know, image-wise. So when you have, you know, a Nigerian leading the UN General Assembly, I mean, that to an extent sort of like helps, you know, portray us, you know, differently. And remember that Nigerian is also the head of OPEC as well. So I mean, Nigerians have led in several of these, you know, organizations or agencies, but in terms of whether it directly impacts us, it might be difficult to measure. But you know, you gotta be, you know, you want to believe that at some point there's some kind of trickle down effect here.
We
don't hear about often.
We need the good PR. If
nothing else,
we need.
I mean, it's a very important forum for lofty declarations, declarations on peace, security, and poverty alleviation, and a lot of issues like that, very sensitive issues. And most of the developed countries around the world respect most of these declarations that are made from the UN General Assembly. So it's a powerful position to take.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, Nigeria is sending a huge delegation, powerful delegation led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yeah. All right, to celebrate our brother. My brother is the president of UNGA.
I should go with Atilogu dancers.
Emeka sent us a message on WhatsApp. He says, stay at your own risk in South Africa. Investment or no investment. Bamidele says, Nigeria is good ground for scam. P&ID, well, that's an example. If a Nigerian becomes an American president, it wouldn't impact us 2% even. He says, why can't we Nigerians wrap our minds around poor or proper immigration procedures executed by the South African government? Nigerians evacuated were illegal residents. If it was the US, they would have been banned for life.
Not all of them, Chris, not all of them. All right, Ugo, let's do this story on tax. Lagos says only 700,000 of 4.8 million registered taxpayers remit taxes. Guardian newspaper. Following news report from the FEC meeting last week that there is going to be an upward review of the VAT. This report. Let's talk about it.
Tax. Well, when I saw the headline, I was like, really? Are you serious? Like, so I quickly did math, like I think Lagos to Nigeria was about 328 billion there, but I mean, like 89% of it is personal income tax. So we did the math roughly, and I came to like 30, was it 38, 32K or something like that per person? I'm like, wow, per month. So I mean, you suggest that, look, these are the guys like that are actually, carrying the burden of tax. So yeah, people like us that would have pay our taxes, So I mean. And then, but on the flip side, I looked at him like, because I recall there was a report I read some time ago that said about, I think we had about 10 million or so taxpayers in Nigeria in general, and about 40-something% of them are in Lagos State. And of course, this report actually alludes to that because it says there are 4.8 million registered taxpayers, and just 700,000 only paying. And this is what we've always said. It's not really about increasing taxes in Nigeria. It's about broadening that tax base. A lot of people are not paying taxes now, not because they don't want to pay taxes, but the mechanism for actually collecting these taxes is kind of like a cake. They tried with the TIN, at least that to an extent, that sort of brought everybody under their radar.
Businesses.
Yeah, businesses especially. But for small businesses that make up nearly half or more than half of the economy, of the GDP, you still need to do a lot more to get them in. I think there was this thing that the Lagos State said they were doing earlier this year. I think it was on one P&ID model or whatever, where they were trying to have everybody, so they do in conjunction with the joint tax board, so everyone will have sort of like a unified tax identification number, so wherever you go to, they can always tax you. And the Lagos State is also looking at introducing BVN to your tax identification number, so they can one way or the other sort of deduct these things from source. And then by the way, that with this new minimum wage, Lagos State is bound to also continue to enjoy, tax windfall. Yeah, because a lot of the taxpayers reside in Lagos anyway. So, by and large, still bad. I think that the government needs to do a lot more. Lagos State government is at the forefront of tax drive across the country. So if about 20% of registered taxpayers are the ones paying, so you can imagine what's happening in other states.
Yes, especially the informal areas, because we know that a lot of them are thriving in Lagos, that they are highly unchecked, they're highly unregulated. They find a lot of businesses, and some of these people, some of these businesses are taxed informally
as well. To actually that data is probably not there.
I think that's one of the biggest issue in terms of tax. Like we said, we can spread this tax base. However, we're not getting people to understand the reasons for paying taxes. So all we're just doing is, once we get all the people who are formally employed and we get their payee every month, we don't encourage people who are individuals to go and want to pay
those
tax.
Who are enforcing the tax, sorry, Wade. Those who are enforcing the tax, how many of them understand what these taxes are?
That's another question. However, some of the things, so I go and register as a taxpayer. The first thing they tell me is that they will give me a best of judgment.
Yeah, it's a BOJ. So
and at the end of the day, you're telling me, I'm just walking to register, and you're saying, based on how you look or what they think or the car you brought in, you should be paying 100,000.
Sounds to me like estimated.
They do that
exactly.
At some point they came up with this self-assessment. I think it was under Fashola's era.
Yes,
so
I
they came up with self-assessment where you can go, just choose a salary band for yourself and sort of like assess yourself and all that. But I don't know. It's just been a big income. But the biggest problem with this story is basically for a lot of these, taxpayers is what exactly are you using that tax money?
All right, so Bamidele from Lupeju says, tax this, tax that. We pay our Lekki and Ikoyi tolls, yet traffic lights are not working.
It
LIRS
works,
staff
so.
are wonderful when it comes to living above their means. The last time I checked my pay slip, so this is from Ololuwa from Yaba, says, last time I checked my pay slip, my tax was at 70K. It's not about increasing the taxes. It's just to justify what they have done with the previous taxes to benefit those of us that pay involuntarily. So if you had a choice, are you saying you would not pay? All right, then Shegun says another week will save Lagosians from the menace of Okada riders. The way they even ride against traffic is even frightening.
All right. Let's go to more stories. Now, this time around from Daily Times, federal government partners Niger, Chad on Lake Chad basin rehabilitation. They said they're going into afforestation to ensure that we get back water or even the vegetation around the Lake Chad basin. It's a conversation that we essentially continue to have. The latest comments was from Director General National Agency for the Green Wall, Great Green Wall, Dr. Bukar Hassan. He disclosed this at an international conference. Your thoughts on this, Wadi?
Good news. However, I think one of the things that has made this the Lake Chad basin, completely neglected over the last 30 years was the fact that they decided that they were not going to do agriculture anymore and they were going to be trying to discover oil. So they pumped so much money into trying to get oil from the Lake Chad basin, which hasn't worked. However, going back to this, I think you come back to the basics of what you need to do to ensure that you create you create an industry in the desert as you go on. It's good. This is a program that started in 2007, but it's taken us 12 years to actually realize that we should work on it with the other countries. It's called the Great Green Wall Initiative for Sahara and Sahel region, in an initiative of 11 countries. Over $8 billion has been mobilized and pledged in support of African countries and international partners under the leadership of the African Union. But it's taken us 12 years to actually realize that these things are available and we can do them.
So let's examine the benefits. For instance, now the frontline states we know that are affected by this: Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, Katsina, Kano, Rijigawa, Yobe, Borno, Gombe, Bauchi, Adamawa. These states have been mostly affected by insecurity in recent months,
Yes,
and recent years, really, to be exact. So looking at afforestation, looking at the benefit of afforestation if it's introduced through this initiative, and also maybe beyond checking the insecurity issues, the whole migration of livestock
would stop,
Exactly.
or at least should reduce, because you create new wealth, you create a better economy, and then more people would want to stay back and grow and at least make a living rather than having to go thousands of kilometers away from home and having to send back. And like you said, it would ensure that the level of insecurity should drastically go down because more and more people get employment and have a source of income in their hands. So it's if they do follow it up to the letter, I believe it's a good initiative that should come.
Thank you. Wadi, from the next story from the Guardian newspaper, Ugo, I'll take us through the story. Pressure on Buhari to sue South Africa over attacks, just closely related to the last story we took on just looking at the xenophobic issue. But the recent move, especially, is hinged on the indications by an external, or rather, former external affairs minister and professor of political science, Bolaji Ahimie, when he urged the Nigerian government to take South Africa to the International Criminal Court of Justice. And this has been re-echoed by some other stakeholders. What are your thoughts on this, Ugo?
So Bolaji Ahimie said that, and Nigeria should invoke Article 2, Paragraph 2 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, and basically, taking, and also asked that Nigeria basically takes South Africa to the international courts as well. So I mean that's basically escalating the issue on a global scale.
So do you think that's seriously, honestly,
I mean, like, this is actually serious. I mean, like, I've spoken to a few people over the week, and these are not politicians. These are like business owners.
So beyond mere headlines, do you think Nigeria would actually make that move?
I don't know, but you know what? These things are all sentiments and the way it plays in the corridors of power. So when you see, a lot of people, visualize what's happening in South Africa and also listen to, officials in South Africa a serious issue, and just like the article explains, there have been comments from South African foreign ministers, defense ministers, and there is this belief by some quarters that the South African government is covertly also behind some of these things. They sort of like come in front of the public and just denounce it, and then behind there's some kind of sentiments in favor of all of these issues. So yes, there's a lot of pressure for Nigerian government to do something, and it might happen. I know that for both governments, they're also looking at it in a different level, economic interest here and there. Nigeria and South Africa are basically the largest trading bloc in Africa. So we also just recently signed the ASA, CTFA, or whatever. So that in its own comes with its own dynamics. So it's not that simple. But what is clear is that there's a lot of pressure. And you know what's sad, Valentine? What's sad is that I kind of feel like maybe for the South Africans themselves, especially the younger South Africans, those who came maybe after apartheid, a lot of them don't really know the role Nigeria played in the apartheid era. So that's the huge disconnect there. So maybe perhaps they probably don't teach them history classes over there or not. I don't know, but they don't really know, because if they know that a lot of our parents actually paid part of taxes at some point to help Black South Africans back then, a lot of the sentiments will be there. They know that a lot of their leaders actually even schooled in Nigeria, secondary school, and their children secondary school, university. They did school. A lot of their top leaders, even in Becky himself. So it's a bit disturbing, and with pressure like this mounting, don't be surprised the Nigerian government can actually dangle an axe here.
A lot of people have blamed the escalating communications and how this has gone far based on diplomatic failures. But my final question to you, in 30 seconds you could answer that: what will be the cost of delay for the Nigerian government?
Well, the cost of delay is continued xenophobia against Nigerian interests in South Africa, and that comes at a cost. Unfortunately, right, the value in terms of the economic value for Nigeria is not as significant as a reprisal in Nigeria here for South Africa. So that's really the issue. So some people are saying maybe that's why government is a little bit slow, because we don't have a lot of huge economic interest in South Africa that is hugely impacting. If not, you'd have probably seen just imagine if we had a refinery in South Africa and this was and it was affecting it, and Nigeria earns a lot of money from there. Then you see Buhari come out and say, what's going on? But I mean,
thank you very much, bro, for doing justice to that. Wally, I'll come back to you for the story on Punch newspaper. Recruitment, workers, lockouts, police commissions. They actually, when you read the headline first, you just think, oh, maybe they locked them into the office, but they locked them out and refused them entry into the office. They said that the top executives are hijacking the recruitment of 10,000 constables by the Nigerian police force. Your thoughts on this, please?
Okay, quick one on the story. Just reading through it, like you said, you think they locked them in the offices, but that's not the issue. What is happening here is that according to the commission, it's the responsibility of the commission to recruit new police officers or new men of the Nigerian police. However, the Nigerian police force itself is who they claim have hijacked this process at the end, and it's on the basis of the fact that the police says they are the ones who are in charge of putting these people in place. But from what the commission is saying is the act that brings about the commission makes it is the responsibility of the commission to ensure this process goes through. The commission has complained that the police is basing its fact on the the police regulation rules of 1945, which they claim has not been repealed from the laws of Nigeria. So it goes on and on. However, I think one of the things they should do is actually go to court so that they can interpret this completely, put a halt on this process, and let the court interpret who is in charge of ensuring that recruitment process goes through. And then that way, they should actually also sit down with the police itself, the Nigerian police force, and agree on what the things that should be done. How do you make them work? I read another story recently, and it was saying that one of the reasons is they believe that the Nigerian police are trying to bring in people who were not among the originally selected people, and it's just back and forth, and it's another scandal.
Similar issues, police force, immigrations, and some other government agencies like that. But thank you, Wadi.
All right, Adenike says, freshly pressed, good morning. For people like us that pay over 300,000 naira as tax monthly, we do not have access to public hospitals, no good roads, no benefit of any sort. If I have a business, I'm not sure I'll be willing to pay any tax, because what I have paid in the last 13 years, I have never benefited.
And on YouTube, we have a message from Michael Ojo. Thank you very much, Michael, for your message, and also Tijani for your message as well. Mr. Ade says xenophobia issue affects lives and livelihood for a lot of applicants in SA. It's an international issue, and suing the South African government at the World Court is perfectly in order. Thank you.
All right, Obi10 Kenobi with our final comment here says the issue with Nigerian taxing is that there is no appreciable dividend for paying it. So increasing it is just going to be problematic. Government should increase accountability first. All right, thank you all for your comments. Thank you to our fantastic analysts. Thank you, Wade at We Inc. Nigeria. And thank you, Ugo at Ugo Dre on Twitter, both on Twitter. On Twitter, we are at Smooth981FM. Please follow us. Continue the conversation using the hashtag FreshlyPressed981. We cross over hashtags to hashtag LockerRoom981 in a few minutes, as Tega will be joining us for some sporting news here. It's a sunny Monday morning, from rain or showers to sun. Hope you enjoyed today and the rest of the week.
The headlines.
All right, guys.
This one is powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh.
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank you.
week.